and welcome to The Scramble. I'm Jenny Liese. Today we're going to talk about Edward Snowden and his exposure of the intelligence gathering of the NSA. Also, we'll discuss the problems with the Affordable Care Act website, healthcare.gov. Joining us are a group of panelists. We have back with us Jennifer Reed, a doctoral student in sociology, Alex Velto, a junior in political science and a minor in Brookings Public Policy, and Heather Fayerverger, a senior in journalism media studies, and Padilla, a senior with a double majoring in journalism and media studies and political science. Welcome. Thank you all for being on the show.
Thank you.
Edward Snowden exposed classified documents about the NSA to the press. Some have said this is the most significant leak in U.S. history. Snowden has been called a hero, a whistleblower, a traitor, and a patriot. He has been charged with espionage and theft of government property and is currently living and working in Russia under political asylum. Do you think Snowden's actions were justified, or do you see him as a traitor? Bree, let's start with you.
Oh, I think his actions were justified completely. I think that Edward Snowden is an intelligent man, and regardless of whether or not you think he's a hero or a traitor, the information that he's released to people is being vetted by an ethical set of standards and by journalists and vetted critics of the government who aren't coming from they're not terrorists. They're members of the quote-unquote free world. They're citizens of allied countries. So I think absolutely his actions are of interest to us, and I think that it is definitely on the list of one of the most important whistles being blown at this time.
Alex, where do you stand on this?
I think that in some ways the government needs to continue to know what the public's doing. It's tough to determine something's unethical without looking at the costs associated with it. And I feel like there's definitely been some good in a lot of the investigation our government does on people abroad. There are strict algorithms that they'll follow when analyzing different phone conversations between people, reading emails. It's not as if they are reading the text of every email I've ever sent. They're looking for certain patterns, and they're trying to determine whether or not you have associations with people in other countries that may be beneficial to know of. I think that if there were serious abuses of this power, you'd be able to see a chain of these abuses in the history of the program since it was started in the early 2000s. And I just don't think that exists. But you can see examples where we have disrupted terrorist plots and connections between people in other countries talking to people in this country using the NSA technology.
How can you say that we don't have any proof that they've overstepped their bounds when Edward Snowden released memos documenting hundreds of millions of innocent people who, admittedly, in the NSA memo, that program didn't actually get out any viable information.
I disagree with that part.
It said that in the memo, though, that their form of surveilling
that have shown that there have been productive forms of surveillance. For instance,
that particular one wasn't.
The Detroit airlines were productive. Your conception of, I guess, what a cost is in this instance is by saying the government has information of the people. I don't think that's a cost. I don't think that's an atrocity. I think that's a fact. I think that if we can use that intelligence in a way that's productive,
I think the atrocity is how it's gained. We are innately given security and privacy as our birthright in its own way, not even as citizens of America, but I think as human beings. So yeah, it is an atrocity. How are you getting that information? Information in and of itself isn't.
Well, Jennifer, where do you weigh in real quick on this?
In general, I'm against it. I mean, I think that it's an overstep. I think that it's too far. I'm very concerned as far as you mentioned. There hasn't been a lot of things that have happened since maybe 2000, but then we're seeing an economic downturn since 2008. You're seeing citizens starting to rise up, like with the Occupy movement. And so I'm concerned with people being considered domestic terrorists for actually being dissidents and actually exercising their right to protest against, what they see as unfair things happening in government and such, that this kind of technology could be used to quell, people from rising up within our own, ranks to grieve as we are supposed to have the right to do. So that's my biggest concern right now.
I mean, I kind of agree with Bree. I think he was justified. He was giving the people the opportunity to know what the government was doing and how the government was following them. So I agree with you. I think he was justified in it.
I feel what you're saying about why it's important to not let this technology be used to kind of quell dissent and to characterize everyone who would be uprising as a terrorist. I think that that's super important, but I don't necessarily think that's the intent of the NSA program. I think that a lot of the early legislation that authorizes it is fairly specific. It may not be explicitly talking about like Al-Qaeda or other terrorist organizations, but it is fairly specific about foreign types of terrorism, not in just political dissent. So I think that's important. It's super valid concern. I'm not necessarily sure that's a result of the NSA program.
Well, I mean, but we're also functioning in a post-Patriot Act world.
That's true. I mean, yeah, but I don't necessarily know why that means our government shouldn't have the ability to try to secure its borders.
What it means is that our government has an irrational and overly sensitive sense of its own importance, honestly. And really, I think the standards as to what security and insecurity mean and how we qualify people as terrorists, domestic or otherwise, or even as threats to our own security, they've been completely overturned. And I don't think we allow for that space anymore, at least technically, for there to be a whistleblower, for there to be a dissident. And that, to me, is key in maintaining a free populace.
There's a difference between releasing classified documents and saying that you
whistleblowing.
think
He
that
blew a whistle.
capitalism should be ended and that markets shouldn't have as much say in government, which seems to be the thesis of the Occupy movement. There's no way to characterize that as the same type of...
I wasn't referring to the Occupy movement at all.
For sure.
I was making a different statement entirely.
I mean, fair. I don't think any type of political dissent that you would be talking about would be characterized as a terrorist act, even under the Patriot Act.
Well, but see, that's the point, is it would still be inspected as if it could be.
I have another question now. Edward Snowden has said that his greatest fear is that the public will see all of this, and all this will be exposed, but nothing will change and nothing will be done about it. Do you think the public has made, do you think they turn a blind eye to what's happened, or do you think that they've had a good enough response?
I think some people have embraced what he's done. I mean, of course, there's people who think he did the absolute wrong thing, but I do think people have embraced the information he came out with, and I guess if more cautious is the right thing to say, they're more cautious towards the information they put out there, or towards what the government could, I guess, possibly know about them or not. So I don't think everything went,
like smoothly for the American government. It didn't. I think actually we've seen a phenomenal amount of response, especially outside of the U.S., because not every country is surveilling as many people with that kind of a net as the U.S. Actually, China is...
Bri, I'm going to have to cut you off there, but I'll come back to you after we come back from the break, and we'll have more on this.
Wow, these are really good.
You act surprised. Practice makes perfect.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who don't need perfection. They need you.
Did you know kids who play outdoors have healthier lungs?
Totally.
Did you know that boys that play with dolls make better husbands?
My son has lots of dolls. But did you know terry cloth diapers breathe better?
I did.
It's totally true.
Oh, yeah.
Did you guys know statistically friendly kids have more friends?
Yeah.
That's obvious.
Did you know most people think they're using the right car seat for their kid, but they're not?
Parents who really know it all know for sure that their child is in the right seat. Visit safercar.gov/the-right-seat to make sure your child is protected.
NFC, AFC, offensive linemen, defensive tackles, quarterbacks, and cornerbacks are all living united to ensure the academic success of millions of kids in our communities all the way to graduation day. But that won't happen without you. So take the pledge at unitedway.org. Make a difference in the life of a child. Suit up like your favorite NFL players and become a volunteer reader, tutor, or mentor with United Way.
Welcome back. We're talking about Edward Snowden and the NSA leaks. And before the break, I cut you off, Bree. So
there's no problem. I was just going to mention that America isn't the only country that has behaved in this way as far as gathering intelligence in what could be considered an overly zealous way. China's also done it, but what's interesting with that is that these reports and this break of news worldwide, that story's actually been embargoed in China. And the reason I'm making that comparison is the fact that not all of the other countries in the world are doing it. China's a country that we've criticized within our own borders for its government tactics and how they affect the people. And we're doing the same thing. So, I mean, on a very fundamental level, it's highly hypocritical and concerning.
I think the idea of borders has become less and less important, actually, because we talk about, securing our borders, but we have become, a more and more global society. And my concern is also that, is this really about securing the U.S. borders, or is this about securing control for the new global elite? Because I feel like there's a control of global elite that's happening right now that has nothing to do with what borders they're within. And is U.S. serving as their master in some way with this kind of surveillance? So that's one of my concerns as well.
That's what Germany, Brazil, and Spain have also kind of been calling for, because the types of espionage that they've discovered within their own countries has been of the economic kind, which I'm not sure where the bombs or the terrorism is there when you're engaging in economic espionage with an ally.
Oh, and just moving on a little bit, Edward Snowden has said he was willing to sacrifice his personal freedoms because he couldn't in good conscience allow the U.S. government to destroy privacy, internet freedom, and basic liberties for people around the world with a secret massive surveillance. However, President Obama insists his administration is not spying on U.S. citizens and is only looking for information on terrorists. Do you think the NSA intelligence gathering has gone too far, or is this type of spying essential to maintaining national security? So we've touched on this a little bit already.
I mean, you can't have absolute freedom and absolute security. You have to kind of give in either way. It seems like it's a fair middle ground to have advanced computer algorithms that look for patterns. And while that may mean that we're preemptively constructing a case against people, we only do that if there's a serious threat. You have not seen any instances in the US where someone has been tried in court with a bunch of evidence that's been found because of the NSA program at all. You haven't seen that, and it's been 10 years. If it were that dangerous of a program, you should have probably seen that. And I think that it definitely is an issue where we're trying to secure our borders, and we do need to focus, in a sense, on borders and acknowledging that they kind of do exist in the most basic sense, because I think that borders, political enmity of sorts, allows for us to engage people constructively. So I think it's important to acknowledge that other nations are doing this. And I think that you said earlier
not in the way that we are.
They definitely are. China is actively recruiting cyber warriors through
China.
the PRC.
We criticize China, and that's the whole point, though. We're behaving in the same way that we paint a dictatorship.
Us stopping to behave that way, though, would not reverse causally have them stop. It would just
You don't know that. That's realist.
Why is it more
political theory?
I agree with realism. Two, why is it more realistic to jump off the cliff and assume that China will respond in kind to us stopping?
But we're coordinating with China at this point.
In some areas, we coordinate with. I mean, China's complex. We don't coordinate necessarily with the PRC, which is the military branch.
Of course, China's complex. It's an entire country with millions of people.
I mean, yeah. So, like I was saying, I think that it's important to understand that their military wing is actively trying to conduct cyber espionage against us. They're attacking our markets. They consistently try to steal military information. We need to keep contact with people. We need to keep checks on different types of electronic communication that occurs.
So, what is the difference then between how can the?
Bria, sorry, I'm gonna have to cut you back there. But we're gonna have more when we come back right after the break.
Ever wonder what makes us, the Smurfs, so happy? The forest, of course. This is where we, along with the beautiful forest creatures, make our home with beautiful plant life, clean water, and endless adventures. It's a place to celebrate. So discover the forest with your family today. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a forest near you.
Oh, hey, bud. Where are you headed?
Just gonna hang out.
With Gary and Todd?
Yeah.
I've been meaning to ask you, is there any drinking going on in this crowd?
No.
If any of your buddies ever pressure you to take a drink, just tell them you promised your dad you wouldn't. I'd do anything to keep you safe.
Okay, I will.
I hope this is working.
I promise. Love you too, Dad.
They really do hear you. For tips on what to say, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
We have a job to do out here today.
To be a winning team, you have to work like a winning team.
My team depends on me.
And my team is 50,000 strong. Looks like a lot of work's going into this.
This is what it feels like to be part of a team.
A winning team.
The action team.
Are you in? Action team!
Get in on the action at actionteam.org. Are you in?
All right, welcome back. We're talking about Edward Snowden and the NSA leaks. Also, Edward Snowden has come out saying that Google, Facebook, Apple, and Microsoft all provide NSA with direct access to their users' back information that these companies don't have to oversee. So, you know, the NSA has extra information that they can analyze. One of the things coming out is some of the people with NSA are saying, well, these companies, these private companies, have all this information have the access to your information, and we don't have private laws in place. So if these companies can have this access, why can't NSA? So, do you have any?
That's a scary thought, though. I mean, of course, whenever you're using Facebook or Google, I mean, I guess you're putting everything out there already, but the fact that they can get even more information from those, that's kind of a scary thought.
And plus, I mean, you're thinking about, it's not just one company. I mean, you're combining all of these, so then they have all of that extra information. And even they've said Verizon has given direct access as well.
I have Verizon.
Verizon's awful. You should really, nix that. They're boycotted.
But you team too.
But I'm wondering how far it'll go as far as, because I mean, when there's technology, then there's counter-technology. So, I mean, there's all kinds of technology that has come out to make things more secure, where, you're using a key to be able to, get into access things. But at what point then are we going to be looked at as, that we're doing something wrong if we're protecting our information and then end up on a list because our stuff's protected or encrypted or whatever. So, I mean, like I said, part of the response of technology is to have other technology that, helps protect the technology that came out before. And that's happening. But is that raising flags then? Like, oh, why is this encrypted? And then they're trying to get into our encryptions. And I know there's been some issues with some of my friends that are IT people that do know more about technology that end up in situations that it's, that they are questioned about why they are using, technology in the way that they are. But they're like, that's my right to privacy. But then it's looked at, instead of a right to privacy, that they're trying to hide something. And then so I'm really concerned about the hole that it keeps going down here too.
Well, and it's actually just really answered very simply by the simple other end of it's just information. It's information that you having at the end of the day doesn't make me more secure, and the NSA's job is to make me more secure. So if there's no point in you getting that information, you have no right to it. That's essentially the way that I look at it. And realistically, the amount of just gray matter that they've collected, I think, proves that it doesn't behoove them to do that and to invade our privacy, and because of that, they shouldn't. It's just it's a very simple other flip side of the coin. Are we more secure or less secure because they know your Facebook password? The answer is no. Leave my Facebook password alone. That's it.
Well, also the servers that, we've heard this and seen the stories about the massive servers that are being put to, in Utah to collect, all this data. But when you're putting that amount of servers all together in an area, it's not that hard for something to go wrong and them to melt down. So, I mean, there's also limits to the technology. As they're building on this, it's still technology. So, I mean, I kind of see another side too, as far as it's like people are like, oh, there's this massive spying thing going on, but how far can they go before it's not sustainable to even do? Because again, like I said, as far as like if you've got all these servers in the desert, they're going to have massive cooling units to keep them cooled. And if something happens and that goes down, is everything going to melt? So I mean, you know, technology is not perfect either. It's not like you have this, you know, this eye that can watch you all the time that's not powered by other, you know, things. So, I mean, I don't think it's as all pervasive as people are afraid, because there's still things that can happen within their own technology.
I'll have to cut you off there, but it's been a great topic on Edward Snowden, and when we come back after the break, we're going to talk about healthcare.gov.
A full life, measured in seats, starts with the right ones early on. Car crashes are a leading killer of children 1 to 13. Learn how to prevent deaths and injuries by using the right car seat for your child's age and size.
Hey, you going out like that?
Yeah, why?
Well, what would the neighbors think?
I see you! Come look at Mr. Feather! Look what I have. Mr. Bird, remember? Bark, bark, bark! We're just playing! We're just playing on trying to get you out of here!
Even still.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who don't need perfection. They need you.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
Maybe he's really focused.
Hey, Michael. Michael. Maybe he likes spinning the wheels.
Maybe he just loves trucks.
Maybe he's just being a boy.
Preoccupation with objects is one early sign of autism. Learn the others today. The sooner it's diagnosed, the better.
Welcome back to the show. Recently, a lot of media coverage has centered on the Affordable Care Act website, healthcare.gov, and the glitches and malfunctions with this website. Some estimate the cost of the website at $174 million, with an upward potential of nearly $300 million. Do you think the problems with the website are reasonable due to the amount of traffic it receives, or was this website poorly planned and implemented? Jennifer, let's start with you.
When a website's being built, there is tests that are supposed to be built in, as far as, you know, tests as far as how much traffic they can hold. So they knew that there was going to be a lot of traffic, and the website crashed at a very little amount of traffic even. So I do not feel that it was adequately implemented and tested before it was put out. But I'm wondering where the accountability is to any of that, as far as the contract being given and what accountability and how that all plays out, because it sounds like the team that was working on different parts maybe weren't working together real well, and so, you know, it doesn't sound like there was a lot of accountability.
I'm wondering why they didn't make an individual website per state, or, I mean, at least the traffic on that, granted, yes, there's still a large amount of traffic, even if they did it individually by state, but a far less amount than the nation. So I don't know why, you know, originally it wasn't thought that they had to build it in smaller forms.
Even our Nevada HealthLink site, though, because there are other sites that are state-run. Our Nevada HealthLink sites have the same kind of issues. Like, there's not any really excuse for that.
Right,
Really
no,
It's just a problem with the way we kind of pay or develop these websites. We contract somebody else to do it.
Yes.
Like we talked about with the NSA issues, we hire a bunch of people that are great hackers. They work for our government and make and do things such as, you know, the NSA program. Those same people that are hackers, we should have just made them web programmers and transfer them to their own sector to just build the website, and it seems to solve the problem. When you contract it out, though, it goes to the lowest bidder. So, you know, government saves a little bit of money, but they get a crappy website.
Right.
And how much money did they really save? Because they're going to have to go back and sink upwards of $300 million, you know, into fixing the glitches. I think a part of it may have also been on a level there could have been expected maybe more state support. So maybe more state supplemented programs and websites. And I know on the East Coast, there's a few states that have had far more success. Oh gosh, there were 2 states, they had 45,000 people successfully enroll in healthcare. And see, the thing is too, is that these numbers are relatively small because of those uninsured in America, the people who are actively underinsured or sick, which is really what Obamacare is targeting, are only 10 to 14 million. So the numbers aren't going to be astronomical. I think that's also what makes it almost worse that there are so many glitches, because we're just trying to close this gap. And it's the gap that needs it the most that is getting the most red tape tossed its way.
And plus, I mean, during the publicized press conference when they were saying, oh, this woman has successfulully, gone through the website, it took her 7 hours. Like, she was on the website for 7 hours the average person does not have 7 hours that they can devote to, implementing, I don't know.
No, and I know someone who was looking at the website and they couldn't do it in one sitting. They had to stop what they were doing and...
I'll have to cut you off there. But this has been, we'll have more after the break.
The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today.
I don't think anyone captured my first steps on camera. I was the 5th kid, and by that time, first steps weren't a big deal. I was 16 and driving home with my brother Ben. A distracted driver hit us. Ben died on impact. I had 47 days in a hospital bed for reality to settle in. With a major spinal cord injury, doctors said I would never walk again. But deep down, I knew I would. I prayed that every day. Family, friends, strangers, all started to pray for me to be able to walk again. The progress has been slow, and the victories hard-won, but I feel the prayers.
Whether you need support in a tragedy or just to make it through a bad day, prayer can make a difference. America, let's come together by believing with each other.
For someone to come alongside you and say, I'm going to believe with you, it means a lot.
Welcome back, and Jennifer, you had a final thought for us.
Yes, I just wanted to say that with all the problems with the website particularly, there are health insurance enrollment assistants that can help people get through the website and have paper applications if they can't even get through the website. So it is possible for people to still sign up. Here in Southern Nevada, it is a firm in downtown Las Vegas that got the contract for this area. So you can visit the Ramirez Group, Know Your Care. It's 7th Street downtown, and they also are having community events in different places that help you sign up.
Thanks, Jennifer. And now you know what we think. Let us know what you think. Share your opinions and any ideas or topics you'd like us to scramble about to thescramble.unlv@gmail.com. You can also catch full episodes of The Scramble at UNLV-TV.edu. That's all the time we have for today. For all of us here at The Scramble, thanks for joining us, and we hope to see you next time.